Hi there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Whole Home Show. I'm Tony Joe, your host here every week, bringing you news, education, tips, and updates on home-related matters. Whether you're in the real estate market or if you're looking for ideas for your home, things to do, this is a great place to be. Our show comes to you with the support of our show partners. Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Centers, Modern Mortgage Group. JP Sellez, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance, operating as Island Savings Insurance. The Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs, and Shoreline Inspections with Reese Jacob and Monica Gass. As to myself, other than being your host here every week, I've been selling real estate here in Greater Victoria since 1991, and I've handled over 2,500 transactions in our fair city. If you need help or direction in your real estate transaction, give us, the Whole Home Show team members, a call. We would love to hear from you. We're living in a changing world as we adjust to the realities of COVID-19. Conditions out there aren't just different in the grocery store or hardware store, they're also different in real estate too. Today, we'll be talking about what it's like to be a buyer out there today in our region. Is it a good time to buy? Are there good deals to be had? What's the outlook on the future? Our guest today, our show sponsor and mortgage broker, Denise Webster, and also buyer agent specialist of the Prime Real Estate team and my associate partner at RE/MAX Camosun, Angie Hill. We always start with a listener story or question, and if you have one, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call. The number is 250-414-6540. That's 250-414-6540. Be sure to leave a message. Or you can also find us online, CFAX1070.com, and we'll discuss it on the air. When you're visiting the CFAX 1070 website, look under shows. There you'll find us, the Whole Home Show with me, Tony Joe. By the way, all of our team sponsor information is there. So if you need to contact a mortgage broker, home inspector, house insurance, or our legal team, all their information is there. Instead of going with our question this week, we want to dig right into it because we've got so much to talk about. We are, of course, still in self-isolation, so we're still not in the studio. We are actually recording from our own locations online here, and we have with us, of course, Denise. Hello, Denise.
Hello, Tony. Hello, Angie.
Huh?
Angie's here with us, too. So much to talk about today. Here's where I wanted to begin. I want to begin with Angie. Because one of the things that's coming up right now is there's a relaxation right now of COVID protocols. Of course, you know, we're on phase 2. Things are starting to open up. I feel people are generally pretty happy that businesses are we're going to start seeing coffee shops open and all that kind of stuff. How are you feeling it out there? Because you're the person that works with buyers. So you're driving, you are making appointments, driving people around. It was tough. It's been tough for the past few weeks. What's it like right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think that tough is a great word because it wasn't stopping business. It just made it a little longer. The procedures were, everybody honoring them. It was great.
There were some hoops to jump through.
Yeah, a lot of hoops. And,
Yeah.
No one ever minded signing extra forms, making sure you wear a mask and gloves. You felt it this week, though, for sure. Buyers are definitely out there really searching the webs, noticing that, not a lot of inventory is out there. So the inventory that is out there is selling fast. Mm-hmm. And people are getting in and viewing them. But I noticed that people do feel that since things are lightening up with restrictions, they want to get out there to see properties. And, our practice is still, you have to be safe. And how qualified are you? If you're not ready to buy, let's not jump in and see a property right now.
Well, we sort of talked about this weeks ago. The one thing that we can be thankful about COVID-19, and there's not a lot of thankful things because it hasn't been great, right? But one of the things that has come out of this is for real estate, what it really did is it took away anyone who was a looky-loo or a tire kicker because you shouldn't be out, right? You should be thinking about your own health, and you should also be thinking about the health of the people who are in the house, right?
That's correct.
So my concern right now, because where we're at again with relaxation, is I feel, you just said it, I feel like people are kind of, they're starting to look maybe when they aren't really ready yet.
Aren't really ready. I did notice that, this week getting phone calls of, restrictions are lifted, we can just go. And I said, no, let's still have that conversation. Have you sold your property, back east? Are you actually prepared to write a contract that states that you are ready, willing, able to remove all conditions in a normal, timely manner? If you're not, then don't look, and having that conversation is difficult because people do feel, well, COVID's over. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so a great example is the little house that we sold on that our team sold on Mayfair a couple of days
Somerset.
ago. So,
Yeah.
on Somerset, right? So I listed it on Saturday. It sold on Monday because we held off multiple offers. We had 4 offers, right? There were 3 realtors that said to me, my people really like that house and they want to make an offer. Would your seller consider looking at something that is subject to the sale of a home?
Right.
And I said, hold on a second. Like, first of all, you already know that it's a multiple offer bidding situation. You're going to be competing with people that don't have that hindrance. But on the other hand, too, like, what are we doing? Why are we out there? I don't know. I have some personal issues with this.
Yeah, it definitely is, having those conversations of, yes, you like the house, yes, you want to move, but you're not ready.
Yeah.
And you're putting other people that need a home on the back burner when you're doing stuff like that, as well as, putting people at risk that don't need to be. Whether you're, you don't have any signs of COVID, we know that protocols are important because you could be carrying it without having signs.
Yeah.
So, having those people, glove up and mask up, but behind the scenes, before we have to do our job and make sure that they are qualified. No tire kickers, as you call them.
Yeah. Well, and hey, I think one of the other issues too is that, let's face it, BC is doing really well. Like, as far as cases and as far as health, I was just on the phone with friends in Ontario. Things are a very different story, right? And this doesn't mean that we're out of the woods. Yeah, we tell our sellers to leave all the lights on, to open all the blinds, to minimize people having to touch anything, right? We have gloves at the disposable gloves. We have masks, but people should be bringing their own. And of course, hand sanitizer is important. Angie mentioned forms a moment ago. We get realtors or buyers to sign a form in advance that says that they haven't traveled internationally in the last 14 days and that they don't exhibit any symptoms of COVID, nor have they been near. So, I mean, as a team, we're not planning on stopping this. Like, we've got to continue doing what we're going to do to keep people safe, right?
Correct. We have longtime clients that are in, in a situation where they want to move, but is now the time? Well, it depends. Do you have to move? Are you ready? Things are lightening up and opening up, and we can feel the markets pick up a bit. But it'll be interesting to see this week what restrictions are lifted in our industry a little bit. I don't think they should be lifted. I think that we still need to carry on these protocols, and sure, maybe more listings will come on because people feel that our precautions are met.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up too, because something that I noticed on posts on the Facebook posts in the past couple of days is realtors are wondering if actual open houses are okay to start conducting again. And the general response has been, remember, the Real Estate Council of British Columbia sent out the missive early on COVID saying that open houses, physical distancing, all these things are important. So they strongly recommended no more in-person open houses, and they have not changed that yet. So I think we're going to see agents doing opens. It's not against our law, but it still hasn't been lifted as far as our recommendation is concerned, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you know what? Our live open houses are
Yeah.
well attended. They
Yeah.
are probably more attended more virtually than they would in person. So virtual open houses are great, and people are still looking. You know, I've had longtime clients call me and say, "Oh, I've been through the 3D walkthrough. I've looked at the floor plans. It's not a great house for us. We won't need to see it," or vice
Yeah.
versa, right?
Self-qualify. Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey,
It's
listen,
like,
we got to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to get Denise Webster on the line as well too. But I want to talk a little bit more about virtual open houses, but we'll get there. Talking with Angie Hill, associate partner at the Prime Real Estate Team and buyer specialist. We're going to have Denise Webster, our mortgage hotshot, with us in just a moment. We need to take a break. Back in just a moment. Hi there, and thanks for coming back. This is the Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joe. We're talking today about buying property in COVID-19 times. Just having a chat with Angie Hill, who is the associate partner and buyer specialist of the Prime Real Estate Team. That's our team at RE/MAX Camosun. We also have with us on the line Denise Webster. She is a mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group. Hi, Denise.
Hi, Tony.
Okay, so we've been talking about things that are going on out there. The first question I want to ask you is, because you had mentioned this before, I don't know if the story is still the same. You were doing more pre-approvals recently, right?
Yes, they definitely picked up.
Okay, so tell us what that means in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I would say that the buyers are feeling a little bit less pressure and feeling like they do want to get out there. And I would say I'm kind of 50-50. I have pre-approvals that really just kind of want to know where they're at. I don't think they're going to actively get out there and look. They're going to peruse the listings online, but not desperate to buy at all. Really just getting their ducks in a row, and rightfully so. Sometimes it does make sense to wait 6 months, just depending on their savings or credit or whatnot.
Hey, you know what? That's a smart consumer, because they got to get in touch with you first.
I always praise them. I'm like, this is the right procedure. This is where you start. Don't waste anybody's time by actually going and looking at a house if you haven't done all this work. And honestly, some of the best decisions can be that, you know what, you're in a much better position, stronger purchase power in 6 months. Just save a little bit more. So and I do have some people that will say, oh no, we're not quite ready. Don't pull our credit. We're just kind of in the early stages. I'm like, exactly. This is the early stage, because I want you to know what your purchase power is, and then plan for that. And if you don't do the pre-approval, you're really just guessing at things, and you could be wasting somebody's time, like Angie. Just like, why would you go and look at a house when you're really not in a position to make an offer? And then,
actually, Denise, hold that thought. Angie, you've bumped into situations where you've shown a house and there's an offer on it, and then all of a sudden you get a call back from the realtor saying, oh, the deal collapsed because the first buyer couldn't get financing.
Oh, quite a bit lately.
Yeah. So that's an example of a buyer that didn't call Denise first, didn't have their mortgage ducks in a row first, and they went ahead, and this is not a good thing for the seller.
No, it's very stressful for the seller. But I have to say, as a buyer's agent, it was nice.
Yeah, it's a second chance, right?
Ill will on anyone, never.
Yeah.
But getting that call, I'm like, oh, really? You know,
thank
when
you.
Have a homeless person that really needs to buy. So, you know, but yes, that due diligence beforehand is super important. Yeah.
Denise, remind listeners here, this is not a painful experience. When they call you up, like this is one of the reasons why all of our clients enjoy working with you, is because it's not like dressing up and going to the bank, which you can't do right now anyways, right? But it's an easy conversation, right?
It really is. And it starts, I can do so much in that first phone call, and really I just kind of run some really rough numbers and find out, hey, you know what, this is worth diving into. You guys are, you know, the income sounds really good. You're not carrying much debt. By the sounds of it, what you're telling me, I think your credit score is going to be strong. Those are questions I just verbally start with. And then I start plugging numbers in, and then I kind of say, you know what, this is worth it. I really do want you to start sending me your documents. Send me your income documents. I'm going to do a full application. I am going to pull your credit, because we don't want any surprises. There's no way I would send anybody out there with a pre-approval without looking at their credit, because I've run into surprises, and the client has been surprised about what's been on their credit as well. So,
Well, I've got to say, this is just tooting your horn, as we do all the time. So that client of Angie's and mine, who you recently helped out, she told me that in her first phone call with you figured out more in 5 minutes than the weeks that she had been dealing with her prior mortgage broker.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I say it's personal. It is going to get personal. I'm going to ask you some questions, and we have to dive into some things. And especially if there has been, not in this case, but, if there has been any kind of bloop in history of credit, or just something that has gone wrong, you first have to find out why did it go wrong, because you're going to dive deeper and really, and ask those right questions, and then find a solution.
Yeah. So it's an easy process. People don't need to be afraid.
And I can do it on a phone call. And then when I say, okay, it's real, let's get some documents. And my goodness, the pre-approval process right now online it's kind of fun. I'm doing the Zoom calls, and I can share my pre-approval spreadsheet, and they actually walk through it right with me. They follow my mouse and the calculations, and it's black and white. It works or it doesn't.
Yeah, and you've been recording them too, so that they can watch it. They can go back and forth, and because sometimes people they miss information the first time around.
Yeah, so watch the video again. You'll see your spreadsheet. You'll see your pre-approval.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's a great way to do it. Yeah.
So it's it's kind of like, wow, it took me this awful pandemic to realize that this is a great solution, because nobody's driving. They're saving their driving time to come to an appointment. So I hope there'll still be buyers in the future that come and visit me at my office. I do love that part of it. But if it means that it's a productive meeting and they've limited on time, well, by gosh, we're going to do a Zoom call and get it done like that.
Yeah. Again, there's the odd thing to be thankful for, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Angie, when you're showing houses right now, obviously houses that aren't ours, so you're showing other realtors' houses?
Yes.
How have they been doing with COVID precautions and all that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's very different. Every listing I've gone to, there's a slightly different protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the form to get to the listing realtor before we enter the house, super important. We have to declare that, like we discussed, that you're COVID symptom free, that you haven't traveled outside the country, things like that. And that, that's a big one, especially when you're showing quite a few properties to an out-of-town buyer. It's quite
you've got to fill out a lot of forms. Hey, you know what? I mean, somebody asked a little while ago, well, how do you know if your buyer, hasn't traveled and is symptom-free and all this kind of stuff? And the thing is, as agents, we should know our clients. Like, if we're Facebook friends with them or social media friends, we know where they've been in the last 14 days. We know if they're having, any issues or whatever. We should know.
Exactly. Right? Yes. You get
there's also there's a lot of trust involved as well. You are asking those questions, and you have to trust they're answering them truthfully.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is the reason why an actual client, so one of our clients, is a very different proposition than some stranger that comes in off an open house or something. Well, we don't know them. We don't know their backstory. We don't know their situation. We can't vet them, right?
That's right.
Whereas, we know someone, then we know them, right?
Yeah. So the protocols are very interesting, listing to listing. We have some where the listing realtor is there, and he or she have opened and closed the cupboard doors, the light switches, everything, and kind of takes you on a tour, but your hands are in your pocket, right? So you kind of feel like a 5-year-old, you can't touch anything. Other times when, I will be like Vanna White and open everything up for our clients.
In gloves, of course. Yeah.
Yes. With my gloves and my mask. And sometimes clients just don't want you put their hand in their pocket with their gloves on, but they don't feel they want to touch anything. As well, other times, some rooms you're not allowed in. It's interesting, and I don't know why. And they just feel that some maybe that child or that teenager
or elderly person or whatever.
Exactly, living in that bedroom, is about immune compromised of some kind. I've had that happen, which, we all wear masks, we all wear gloves.
But the thing is, people understand this now. I mean, before COVID, if you ask these things, they'd be like, what are you talking about? And I mean, it all makes sense, right?
It sure does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting now. We could ask questions of people that we could not before. And I have had people call on our listings saying, I want to see it. I don't have an agent. And I've got to put them through the ringer, right? Because I don't know you. I don't know your backstory. I don't know if you've traveled. And even if you said you didn't, my trust level is low. Right?
You're calling off a listing and you're not going to put
find your own agent, right? Yeah. We have with us today Angie Hill from the Prime Real Estate team, our buyer specialist. Also Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Centers, Modern Mortgage Group, talking about buying homes in COVID-19 times. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to dig even deeper about what you can expect or what your family can expect if they're thinking of buying or selling right now. Back in just a moment. Hi there, and thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show. I'm Tony Joe, and I am here with you every week to talk about all things real estate. Of course, our show comes to you every week with the support of our show partners. Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Centers, Modern Mortgage Group. JP Selez, insurance advisor with Westland Insurance, operating as Island Savings Insurance. The Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs. And Shoreline Inspections for your home inspection. Reese Jacob and Monica Gass. Before we start the segment here, I want to again call out to all of our frontline workers and healthcare workers who do so much work for us here. We're all out. My kids are out 7 o'clock every night banging on those pots and pans. We thank you for everything you guys do. So thank you. Thank you from all of us. We're talking today about home buying under COVID-19 times. We have with us Denise Webster from Dominion Lending Centers, Modern Mortgage Group, and Angie Hill from the Prime Real Estate team. We're talking about what's going on out there. Denise, there are some mortgage changes afoot or planned, or there's been conversation. What's going on?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, talk right now. Nothing is solid at all. And way back when there was originally a little bit of downplay on the stress test. We were going to see some relief on that, and that was immediately kind of put on the back burner when everything was announced with COVID-19 early March.
Because what that was going to do was it was a recalculation, so it would have loosened up some affordability for people.
That's the word I was looking for. Absolutely. So it was
not a lot, but a little.
A little bit. Every little bit helps. So yeah, it qualifying at just a little bit of a lower stress test rate. And then of course there was some chitter chatter about strictening up the rules again and possibly having a 10% down payment requirement. That one gets thrown around quite a bit, and absolutely nothing concrete yet. And never say never, but absolutely nothing happening right now. And that was actually on a Zoom call this morning. I did pay close attention to that one, and no, there's absolutely nothing coming down the pipeline immediately to make things look even harder.
By the way, remembering that we are pre-recording these episodes now because we're doing them in self-isolation. So by the time our listeners hear this on Saturday, something might have been announced. Who knows?
Right.
But there's a lot of conversation because where are we at right now with interest rates? Like it's still a very attractive time to buy, right?
They are still coming down. Yeah. And I think we're going to be in a low interest rate environment for quite some time. Our fixed rates originally kind of, I wouldn't say spiked, but they went up in early March. And that
but going up is like going up at how many points as opposed to anything major, right?
I know. Yeah. So yeah, we saw the fixed rates increase in the middle of March. And then of course, what was drastically happening was the overnight lending rate was coming down. That's your prime floating rate, anybody in a variable rate mortgage. And, in the month of March, we had 3 0.5% drops. So to be in a variable rate mortgage right now is very attractive. We've got lots of clients in well under 2% on their mortgage because that prime rate is now sitting at 2.45 and they have discounts off of their variable rate. So they're reaping the rewards of taking that chance on
so really what that means is their payment is the same, but more money is going towards their principal every month, right?
Yes and no. There's two. There's a variable rate and
Okay.
there's an adjustable rate. They sound like the same thing, but an adjustable rate will actually just change the payment. So if you had a fix or you had your payment, it will actually have dropped.
Okay.
So it's really important for people to go back to their lender and say, we were comfortable with that higher payment. We want to increase our payment again. So the adjustable will change. A variable rate will adjust the difference of the payment between principal and interest.
Yeah.
So really important to know your mortgage. And if you saw your payment drop, maybe that's really good timing for you right now with what's going on in your life. But if you are still working and you were managing your payments well, no better time than to take that payment back up. Now you're really attacking that principal balance in the lowest possible rate you could be in.
Yeah. Actually, while we're at it, because we're talking about this topic, how about this whole mortgage deferral situation? Because I know you had a lot of people asking questions about that when it was first announced, right?
It was our lenders and banks did a phenomenal job. I was receiving updates that some lenders were receiving 20,000 phone calls a day. They were absolutely overloaded, and they put great measures in place to get back to all these clients that needed to defer their payments. And some were just being automatically approved. There was no vetting at all. They just accepted the application to defer for 6 months and their payments were deferred. They've also been very good to ensure us that they've been in good communication with Equifax and TransUnion, and that these deferments should never affect their credit scores. And it really is a wonderful option to take, especially if you had lost some of your income. Even if you knew your spending was going to get your budget was going to get really tight, the deferred mortgage payment is a great option. It's the lowest interest rate you'll ever get on borrowing money, because really what happens is that payment goes on hold for however 2 to 6 months. I think that 6 months was the maximum.
Yeah.
And really, if you can take those payments that you're not paying now, and you actually lowered your debt, maybe, so you paid off
higher interest loans like your credit cards. Or
absolutely, or you were able to just save, and you know we're not spending a lot of money right now, so it really was a great option. It should not have a big effect when it comes back into repayment. You know, your payments may increase. It's going to be amortized over the remaining term and amortization. There should not be a big shock payment when you go back into repayment. Yeah. But another really great thing to note is that, you know, 6 months makes a habit. They say that 66 days creates a habit. Yeah. And you sure want to know that you didn't create a bad habit by having that extra money from deferring. Yeah. Because if you started spending that money elsewhere, then yes, you are going to have a shock when your mortgage comes back into repayment.
Yeah, that's not extra beer money. That's not extra wine money.
No, it is not. So I'd love to believe that most people were really smart about it. They were using those funds effectively, paying down debt, you know, subsidizing their lost income. And yeah, it was a great option. I'm really impressed by our banks and lenders.
Well, people really need to know everything though too, because it's not free money. Yeah. And it does, like you said, it adds to the amortization, and in some ways there's interest over interest, right?
Very small. Yeah. I mean, your interest rates are for the average interest rate on a mortgage right now, 3%. Yeah. You know, so 3% on 6 months of interest.
I've read of some cases where what consumers have done, even if they didn't need it, they took that deferral and they are disciplined and they're saving the money and they are making those payments, just like you said, you know, the high interest credit cards. To them, it was kind of like a refinance without having to go through the process of appraisal, legal fees, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
You know, and in the early stages, kind of the message, this sounds, you know, some kind of comparable, but we were saying, do not take the deferment if you do not need it. Do not park in the handicap parking spot if you're not needing it.
Well, because at the time there was 20,000 calls a day, right?
That's what that message really was kind of directed at. But you know, if you were doing it for the right reasons and you were saving the money, and like you just said, almost like a refinance, there was nothing wrong with that. You know, you just didn't want somebody understanding it incorrectly, thinking that, you know, there's going to be absolutely no change in their mortgage payment, and then to be spending that money elsewhere unsophisticatedly, and then feeling that shock when payment comes back into play.
Yeah, hoarding money. It's like gathering nuts for the winter, right? Yeah.
So,
Uh,
question for you, Denise, though. So, when you defer a payment, say 5 months, 6 months, is it due in 6 months, or do they tack it on to the back end of your mortgage?
So think about your payment in a simple, so say your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
500 is going to principal, 500 is going to interest. Your 500 principal stops. So your mortgage principal balance is not coming down for 6 months, and that 500 interest is being added to the principal. So yes, your principal balance is going to go up by $3,000 in 6 months. Big deal.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a little bit of interest on that interest at 3%.
Yeah.
And then they will take that new principal balance, re-amortize it, and create the new payment. So in that scenario, $3,000 added to your mortgage is going to be nothing. You might see a $5 interest increase in your mortgage payment.
It's so helpful now when people are losing wages and losing jobs. That's a great product. Yeah, I've had a few people ask me about it, and I said, call Denise. I don't know, but I like the clarity of that, just so I have an understanding as well. Yeah, that's great.
Help me out as well too. Hey, as always, Denise, people need to reach you. What's the best way to do that?
Well, call me directly, 250-889-4743. You can send me an email as well, denise@denisewebster.com.
denisewebster.com. I got to tell the listeners here, we know Denise is busy. She's never too busy to help you. And the same goes with us, with myself and with Angie and Kyle. You may think that we're busy agents, and we are, but we're here for your calls. So call us. We would love to talk to you. We're going to take a...
Sorry, one quick thing. I love it when somebody calls me and they said they heard me on CFAX. It's a really, really nice thing to hear. So don't ever hesitate to call.
Part of the CFAX family. All right, need to take our last break for the day. We'll be back in just a moment. Hey there, everyone. Thanks for coming back. This is the Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joe. We're having a conversation today about buying real estate under COVID-19 times. We have with us Angie Hill. She is an associate partner and the buyer specialist on the prime real estate team at RE/MAX Camosun. That's part of our team. We work together. Also, we have Denise Webster, who is our show partner and also a mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group. We've been talking about what's going on out there and the process and how it's looking like for people when they're thinking of buying, because people are still buying it. They are still buying homes, and our sales for the month of April ended up at it was almost 300 sales. Now, that's not a lot because of the fact that it's normally closer to 700, 300 to 700. Yeah, the news said that we're down 58%, which we were, but you got to think about it this way. There was 300 properties that changed hands last month in tiny little Victoria. That is amazing under these circumstances right now, because I keep on asking the question, who the heck is buying real estate under COVID-19 conditions? And yet people are. And you know why? It's because people need to move. They either sold or they need to buy for whatever reason. Angie, I can't help but think that with self-isolation, especially people that are locked up with their kids, I think we're going to get a lot of people thinking they need more house after this.
More space.
I agree. I've already had a couple phone calls about that. Like, we've realized we don't have enough yards.
Yes.
We don't have enough bathrooms. And, it's interesting. Or they're like, wow, I cook a lot now, and they're enjoying it. So they need a bigger kitchen. So yeah, I think you're right, Tony.
Everyone's talking about it. And then of course, there's people talking about, in 9 months, we're going to need another room for the newborn, right?
The COVID baby.
The COVID baby. And then there's on the other side, there's always the joke about, well, there might be some split up. So, people you need to sell and buy, you sell one house, you buy two, there you go. Right. So very interesting time.
For sure.
Yeah. I want to bring up as an example. So we have a client, by the way, she listens to this show. I know, because she's getting acquainted with Victoria. So she's probably hearing it here. We're not going to mention her name, but she knows who she is. She's coming from Toronto. Right. And I think she is a classic example of why Victoria remains a busy place. Mm-hmm. So now remind us, why is she moving here?
To be closer to family. Her family is on this coast, not where she is, and time zone change, and she's a senior and lovely lady, and she just misses her family. She wants to be in the same time zone as their family.
Same time zone instead of 3 hours.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially even now, because you know, she can't be near them, but she wants to talk to them on the phone. And she says, if we're going to be in lockdown again, who knows? I
Yes.
just want to be on the same time zone. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you know, she loves this town, the beauty. We
Yeah.
talk about lacking snow. I
Yes.
feel that a lot because I have noticed, you know, the multiple offers that we had on Sparrowhawk and on Somerset. I have noticed that some of the buyers who made bids are Vancouver buyers.
Wow.
So my theory, I feel that people are thinking that as a result of self-isolation, maybe the whole hustle and bustle of living in metropolis Toronto or Vancouver is losing its appeal. And if people can manage to survive by, you know, isolation or living differently than they were previously, that maybe a place like Victoria is not a bad idea.
Don't tell everybody.
I
I
can,
know our little,
it's too late. They already know, right?
we're born and raised here, you three.
Oh, the three of us. That's
Yeah,
right.
we are.
Yes.
Yes.
We're rare.
We are rare breeds. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But like I said, I mean, if people are having this idea
Yeah.
of going to a smaller, quieter place, um, they may not choose Winnipeg. You know me, I always bring up Winnipeg, right? They'll want to come to Victoria, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when she came to have, because she came to have a look at houses, Ange,
Yeah.
and she had not traveled internationally, so you know, we had the conversation about health and all that kind of stuff.
And the protocol, she had to rent her own car. I could not drive with.
Yeah, so that's another one that I want to talk about. So this is something else that's coming up, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I have to say, in all the years of real estate, the last 6 years, people are more inclined to drive by themselves anyways.
Mhm.
It's not because I drive a Mini. It's
It's a
really
four-door though. You got a four-door Mini.
right, a four-door, full
Yeah,
size,
yeah,
whatever. But I always drove SUVs, and people stopped coming in my car, and it wasn't my driving.
yeah,
They
yeah,
just wanted to feel the neighborhood, do
yeah.
the driving themselves. But it was interesting because out-of-town buyers, which we get a lot, Tony, I pick them up at the airport, the ferry terminal.
Yeah.
They drive with me. It's an experience. I'm tour guide and realtor, showing them the ins and outs. And it was very different this time because I provided her with the maps or the,
Yeah.
you know, the layout, but I couldn't drive her past, you know, what my favorite spots, or you will love this or that. And it was different. I mean, she navigated beautifully and she did
Yep.
her own little tours too, but that was a different, you know, experience with an out-of-town buyer for sure.
Yeah.
Such a nice way for the buyer to get to know you, Angie. So yeah, that would feel very different not being able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But,
And then of course our masks are on and our
yeah.
gloves. So you're like, hi, yeah, this is great.
But there's other things too. I mean, my first meeting with her and the family was by Zoom, right?
By Zoom. That's
Uh, and so it's a nice way to meet and visit. And by the way, to our listeners, you probably know I've been recording the videos of all of our isolation episodes of CFAX here. So you can see us by visiting the Prime Real Estate Team's Facebook page or our YouTube channel. All of our episodes are posted there. But being able to see somebody face to face, you know, is a really nice thing, right?
It is, yeah, for sure. You can, you know, it's more personable. And also, sometimes out of town buyers, you talk to them on the phone, you don't know what they look like when they come in.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look on Facebook, or if their signature has a photo, that's great. But now it's really nice because it's like you already feel like you met them.
Yeah.
Doing these Zoom conversations. I'm like you, Denise. I think I might continue on using this as a tool because it's more personable than a phone call.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And you know, our market continues to move along. If ever there's been a time that demonstrates that the majority of our sales originate from within Victoria, now is the time because the border's closed. We don't have Americans coming up. There aren't flights coming in from China. We don't have like that foreign influence, and yet we still have people that are buying. How much more proof do people need to know that, you know, the majority of Victoria sales are Victorians or Lower Mainlanders, right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Still a lovely place to be. How now, Angie, one of the big questions right now is inventory. I think you sort of touched on it a little bit earlier. We're slim right now, right? So there's not a
We
lot
are
of stuff
really
out there.
slim, you know, and people say, you know, it's the spring market. Well, with COVID, there is no spring market. But, you know, this week alone, I don't know about you, but it just feels a little amped up. So I'm anticipating some more inventory popping up, which I'm very excited for. But it is very hard, especially this one lady that came in to buy, out of town buyer, flew in. She was an ex-nurse. She did every protocol proper. She has to buy. And there was 3 properties to show her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, you know, it was hard. Typically this time of year, I would have had 12
To show.
you know, properties to show her. So, and she did obviously all the floor plans and virtual tours beforehand. But even then, they're still just, it was slim pickings. So slim pickings for sure, which is definitely not a buyer's market.
Yeah. So that's a call out for anyone who's thinking of selling. You might want to think about getting out there right now. Give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you about what you could expect and about, you know, dealing with your house for sale under COVID times. The one warning I will put out there, though, is let's be very conscious about the elderly, people who are highest at risk. I think that's the area that we are most concerned about. If you don't need to sell, don't sell. We don't want to be responsible for what could possibly happen there, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so important. Denise, any thoughts about how things are going to be looking in days moving forward here? Because you see, the thing is, you usually have a pretty good foresight about things because buyers are coming to you first.
It kind of did feel like in the last 2 weeks that the spring market was coming back, and I feel very, very blessed that for the most part, a lot of my existing clients and my new clients have not lost their jobs. They are in a good position to buy. And it is, like Angie said, for most cases, it is realizing they need something a little bit bigger. They do want outdoor space. I've got 3 pre-approvals right now of people that are having babies and realize they need more space. So
not COVID babies, just babies.
Just babies. You just call them babies. And poor things are going to be labeled the rest of the time. Oh, you're one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do get a feel that when those pre-approvals and those inquiries start to ramp up, we definitely have a lot more buyers out there. But yeah, we need that inventory. And that kind of brings you know, you started this episode with, you know, talking about that offer with a subject to sale. You know, you've kind of really got to get organized, and it might mean a pretty uncomfortable scenario of selling your house, not having a purchase ready. And you need a backup plan. You might need to have family where you can go and stay, or, you know, it's a little different couch surfing nowadays. But
there is one upside right now, though. Because, you know, before, if they sold their house, they had no place to go because it was a tough rental market.
Yes.
Right now, there's a lot of available Airbnb properties that could be rented out on a monthly basis, right?
Yeah.
Completely.
And, you know, the biggest issue we run into as the broker with those scenarios of, you know, we really have to advise a client, like, you are not in a position to make an offer if you don't know for sure your source of your down payment. It's all tied up in equity. So for me, I've got to make that calculation. So worst case scenario, you don't sell. Can you manage 2 mortgage payments? And can you actually turn this one property into a revenue property? What if it is a condo that's got no rentals? You're really hooped. You really just have to sell before you think about buying, because even if you could afford it, that's not a rentable property. And then the other, you know, brick wall we can run into is, if you want to prepare those 2 approvals, so here's your purchase or your approval that you've sold your house. We're just going to assume you're sold. We know how much estimate of the down payment you're going to have, sale proceeds. Here's your approval based on this potential sale. Well, the backup plan is also to make sure you can afford both properties. But what happens when you send that mortgage application to a lender that says they're going to turn this property into rental and they're buying this new property, and the lender searches MLS and they see their property is listed for sale? It's a really tough situation, and it puts a broker in a very tough situation, because we have to prepare for the worst, but we really are kind of saying to the lender, well, yeah, they're trying to sell it, but what if they don't? We want this approval.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is there are things to know, and really anyone who's thinking of this must speak to an expert. Speak to us, speak to Denise, get all of their ducks in a row. That's the only way to do it. We've got to end our show. We've got so much great content today. Denise Webster, people need to reach you.
Please call me directly at 250-889-4743 or send me an email, and you can text that number as well, or send me an email, denise@denisewebster.com.
And you can reach Angie or I at the Prime Real Estate Team. It's primeteam.ca or info@primeteam.ca. Thanks for coming, Angie.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks, Denise. And to our listeners, we'll be here for you this time next week.